Get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 when you use the promo code. Welcome to Light Years. Andy, I don't think there's any better way to put it than that was kind of the perfect way to end that first half of the season. Warriors go out to a big lead and then almost blow it, but thankfully they pull it out. And I think you could see it on everybody's faces and in everybody's body language. They're ready to get to the All-Star break, but I'm glad they were able to pull that one out in the meantime.
Yeah, that was peak Warriors. My sister came over today, and we're just watching the game, and she's like stressed out, and I'm just like, this is every game. She's like, did we just blow a 20-point lead? And I was like, hey, that's normal stuff, man. That's a freaking Tuesday. It's a Thursday, actually. I mean, look, man, this is I don't think the Warriors win this game with Jimmy Butler. I think that's pretty obvious. I don't think it's a hot take. I think he settled down the game a little bit. I think some of the same weaknesses showed up today for sure, like the lack of like real punch off the bench, and guys are old, but they needed this one. Tommy, like they needed this one, man. They go into the break 3-1 in the last 4 games, 3-1 with Jimmy. So yeah, man, that's positive momentum, and that's what I'm taking out of this.
100%. I think if you would have told me coming into this 4-game stretch after they traded for Jimmy that you go 3-1, I think you take that every time. You know, if you just look at the 4 teams, you say 3-1, okay, perfect. Doesn't matter how you got there, but the vibes are much better than they were last night. I fortunately was not able to watch the game last night because I had some prior family obligations, but I watched the highlights, and we'll do a little bit of review on that too. And then I heard a lot about the reffing, so I'm really glad I didn't watch that. But honestly, my takeaway just from the last 2 games and really kind of the entire road trip is obviously Jimmy helps. He's integrating well. But I think we should kind of start here by talking about both Moses Moody and Brandon Podziemski, because it seems as if they're really taking like a definitive leap and they're becoming guys that you can rely on down the stretch of games. And it's always going to be a little bit uneven with young guys. But I thought Pods was maybe their best player tonight. Especially down the stretch. And you can always say it's Steph in one way or another, but I thought Pods was excellent tonight. Wasn't super efficient from the field, 7 for 17, 2 for 7 from 3. But regular Pods game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals. I think he ended up with 18 points. And he was just kind of everywhere, man. And Sam and I talked about this a little bit last time when I was on the pod. He's obviously, since he's scoring again, like he feels better about himself, but he's also doing all the impact stuff. And I think that's the most important thing with him is him doing like the impact stuff that doesn't necessarily have to do with scoring.
This was, I think, a shifting of the tides for this team of those 2 guys. I don't get to kind of your point on Pods, but like just the macro, I think, vision of this team is the 5 best players are going to be those 5. Well, okay. The 6 best players are going to be those 5 guys plus Kaminga. Right. And then probably Looney. I think like Looney was crucial today with 9 rebounds, but like, I think those are the best players, like these 5 right here. And I think they take even more of a step back, and you look at the trade deadline and you look at them trading everything away, and Mike Dunleavy's laughing and saying like, we picked a timeline. I don't know if they did, because if you really think about it, and I don't mean this as a slight, right? I mean this like, they actually kept all their young guys, and they actually just gave all those veteran minutes to those guys, right? Mm-hmm. Kyle Anderson is gone. He's not going to take those minutes from Moses Moody, who apparently is a 4 now. Buddy Hield got benched tonight. Thank God, right? Paz is going to take all those minutes, are going to be his. And Dennis Schroeder, gone, right? You're not going to take any of those minutes from him anymore. Even Andrew Wiggins, gone. I know Jimmy Butler played 35 tonight, but like some of those minutes, like Moody can take as well too in the backup 3-4 position. So I think it says a lot. I think that those 2 young guys, that this team traded those guys, and that these 2 guys finally stepped up. And I've always thought they were good enough, especially I think with Moses Moody, and he showed a lot of that tonight. But my roundabout way of getting your point to Pods, he shot 17 times. I actually don't know if I care too much about how many he made, because he made 7 for 17. Dude, if they can get a guy to do that, if they can get a guy aggressive enough, a third option aggressive enough to shoot 17 times, that's a win. Like that is a win. Like the shots that he took were not like oh, I can't dribble, so I just have to hoist a three. No, like he was dribbling, he was taking middies, he was had little scoop shots left side, like it was doing all types of stuff where you're just like, as a third option, Tommy, like that's, you know what I mean? Like when you don't need him to be the first option. You don't even want him to be the secondary option because he can't, most likely not right now. But as a third option, pretty sweet.
Yeah, and that's, one of the biggest reasons for trading for Jimmy. And Jimmy's line tonight, 19, 8 boards, 4 assists. That kind of looks like something Wiggins would do. But at the same time, Jimmy attracts so much more attention. Like Steph got an open three tonight and he missed it. I can't remember if it was third or fourth quarter, but Jimmy just made a bucket cut and Steph was wide open. Like that doesn't happen with any other guy that was on any previous iteration of the Warriors. And to bring it back to Pods, he's now always sharing the floor with one of those two for the most part. Steve threw out that crazy lineup that I don't even want to address late in the third quarter just because it was so ridiculous. I think he was just trying to rest his older guys because they played a lot of minutes last night. But for the most part, he's for 30 of the 35 of the 39 minutes, he's sharing the floor with Steph or Jimmy. So now he gets to be that secondary and a lot of times the third option on the floor. And he looks a lot better when he does that. And like you said, most of his looks were quality looks tonight. It's just a matter of making or missing them, right? If he makes one or two more threes, that line looks a lot better. But I think something else we can look forward to here is like the return of Jonathan Kaminga, right? Like he can slot in and like actually be that third option if he can learn to play off of Jimmy.
I forgot. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
right. And so, but I do think that fit is going to be a little bit clunkier than Jimmy's fit so far, just because they operate out of the same areas. But at the same time, if Kaminga can learn to just really defend on the ball, he won't have to worry about as much off-ball defense, and then just like really learn how to be a cutter and how to play off of what Jimmy and Steph can create. Because Jimmy is the one thing that Jimmy does for sure that is so much better than Wiggins is play make. Like you saw it a couple tonight where he hit Steph on a nice cut. And he's always just kind of like playing in the mid post, playing in the pocket, playing at the free throw line and finding guys and setting them up. So if Kaminga can learn how to exist in that environment, now you obviously have Steph, you obviously have Jimmy as your number 1 and 2 options, but Kaminga can kind of be a reliable third option if he can figure it out, because he can go get 20 a game. We know that. It's just about how efficient it is. So go ahead.
No, I think I hadn't thought about that, and you're right. That's 100% right. I think I'm thinking about third option with Pods. I think it's third option by committee with those two guys, actually, because I think those two guys. You just look at the box score. Oh yeah, you have it up right here. It's like those 17 minutes with Guy Santos, like that's automatically going to Kaminga, and probably taking some minutes away from Moody. And a couple other guys, like he's getting his 25 minutes somewhere, right? So like I think you're right. I think if they can get third option by committee with those two guys, that does make the game a lot easier. Especially like you watch the game tonight and you watch the Rockets, like it's a great matchup for someone like Kaminga. It really is. It's just like they're aggressive, they're strong, they're athletic, and that's something that Kaminga is better than what 95% of the NBA, right? Like just a perfect fit. And I mean, you saw the Warriors get steamrolled a little tonight, like in that stretch. It's because they're a little less athletic, they're a little older, and that's where Kaminga comes in. So that's the fun part of this stuff. It is that you brought it up earlier. The fun part of getting Jimmy Butler is that it makes life so much easier for the younger guys. The moment you have to ask Kaminga to figure out how to run an offense, or Pods to be like the starting like secondary lead initiator, you're setting them up for failure. Like that's just, they're not those guys, especially in the year 2, right? And Kaminga's just never that type of player. So it's really exciting to see what happens when he does come back.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that can be the first game after All-Star break, because it's going to be a big game. It's sack, and obviously we're kind of jockeying for position in the stands with them. Yep, right out of All-Star break, that's the first one. It's sack and the Mavs
tonight too.
Yeah, they just lost the Pelicans, so now they're at 27 losses too. This race down the stretch here is going to be really tight. But yeah, you go in Sacramento and then home for Dallas. So right out of the break, you're going to need to be playing good ball, and you hope Kaminga's. Yeah, you're going to hope Kaminga's healthy by that time. But you kind of made a point here a bit ago where you said, they are older, they all are slower. And I think that's why they do tend to blow a lot of leads nowadays, because they're old, slow, and they're small for the most part. And it can get really hard to hold leads when you're constantly playing small, especially as you're older. Like the Rockets came back in that game mostly with energy. Like it was they just started getting every rebound. They're getting multiple looks at the rim. And eventually, if you shoot enough threes, they'll go down. right? So I hope Kaminga can help in that way. Obviously, just bring some more energy defensively and on the boards, and then hopefully, score efficiently as well. But encouraged overall after the Jimmy trade. I wish they would have won last night in Dallas. But at the end of the day, you take 3-1, and you just kind of like you live with it, and hopefully everybody can rest, get to integrate Jimmy a little bit more over the break, get to teach him a little bit more about how you're trying to play on both ends of the floor, and hopefully it looks clean coming out.
Yeah, I think if we want to talk Jimmy a little bit for a second, I think he's coasting and still probably by far their second most impactful guy on offense. And it isn't close. I think the out of shape stuff has actually affected him on defense. He looks like he's 2 steps slow, and I don't think he's that bad of a defender. I just think he's out of shape, especially when he's out there playing 35 minutes right now. So it's pretty like I cannot wait for the day when Jimmy's out there saying, all right, I'm going to go get my 28. Like, I'm going to go shoot every time down the court. I'm going to go blow by guys. I'm going to start shooting jumper threes instead of these weird set shot line drive threes. Like, I just can't wait until that version of Jimmy comes out. But just having this version, like a subdued, I'm going to go pass the ball and be part of the team guy. Doesn't that kind of remind you of Steph a little bit? Like, it's just like, I'm going to be that guy. Like, that guy's still super impactful. So,
and that's kind of how Jimmy can be. Like, I've watched a lot of Jimmy. I'm a huge fan. I always have been a huge fan. He can kind of like coast his way into games like that because I think sometimes he knows he's going to need a lot of energy down the stretch because of the way he plays and how physical it is. But you could tell there were some opportunities and I'd take the ball to the rim and he kind of just turned it down because he's all right, I got to conserve myself for down the stretch here. And then he had a big take baseline late in the game where he drew a foul, made both free throws. And again, that's just the type of thing that calms your team down. But yeah, I always thought it would be a fairly quick integration because of how smart of a player he is. Like he read that play late where he threw the ball to Dre in the corner and then Steph kind of came off a pick and he just immediately cut to the rim. Like it's so instinctual for him. So I wasn't really worried about the fit. It's more just like you're saying, getting him back into shape. And it's weird because like you get 2 weeks off now or a week and a half, whatever it is. But I hope he's able to work on his conditioning in the meantime, because they're not going to play any games for 8 days.
Yeah, that's we'll see what happens, but I don't know. It's just it just goes back to I think the game being so much easier. I mean, you've played anyone that's played basketball. If you're not a star player, you just kind of know like the moment you're the guy that has to dribble more, the moment you're the guy that has to take more shots, right? It makes it so much more difficult. And I just like how much of the leap that we're seeing from Pajemski and Moody is because life is so much easier playing next to Jimmy, and how much is it just those guys have taken a leap? I think it's both, right? Probably, but I'm sure playing next to Jimmy doesn't hurt, and that's why you look around the league and everyone has 2 stars, and these guys' lives are a lot easier. It's unfair for the guys to play as hard as have to do as much as they do when they're playing up a level.
Yeah, and they were both playing well before the Jimmy trade happened, but I think what we've tended to see with the young guys over the past couple of years without that second star is they'll be really good for a stretch, and then it'll dip up for a little bit, and it'll be really good and it'll dip, and it's been like kind of this tidal wave of play in terms of like impact and how many minutes they get. I think that'll still happen because they're still young, but at the same time, I do think Jimmy will ease some of those issues. You know what I mean? Like those won't be as often and they won't happen as frequently because there's just not as much of ability to like get in your head about how bad you're playing because there's not so much pressure on you. Yep. Like you're saying, a lot of it is just mental at the same time. So yeah, my biggest thing coming out of the break is hopefully Jimmy's in better shape and they can integrate Kaminga quickly into this because the big games are coming. Dallas won in Miami tonight, or I think they were at home.
Can't believe they won that game. They didn't even have anyone playing. Insane.
I know. But I think the Heat only had like Hero and like G.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like so it was skeleton squads. But it would have been nice if Dallas lost. But look, you get a chance to get them coming out of the break, and then the season series is 2-2, and hopefully you can knock them down a peg in the standings. So yeah, there's gonna be. We'll jump into this after we take a break here. But there's a lot of stuff to get to about how the first half of the season went, and then looking down the road here towards the playoff picture.
Yep.
Oh man.
I could do it, bro.
Yeah, you
Light
got
Years
some respect.
podcast. We are brought to you by Prize Picks. You guys, you guys know it, brother. You guys know it. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks, best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. Pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 1,000x your cash. All-Star Weekend this weekend, brother. All-Star Weekend is here, and Prize Pick in the Bay. In the Bay Area. I don't remember the last time it was in the Bay. Obviously, it was in Oakland somewhere. Someone's got to remind me.
I know the Vince Carter dunk contest was, but that was like
Dude,
2000.
man, we must have been. How old were we? 10? I mean, you and I are the same
Nine,
age, I
nine or
think.
10. 9 or 10.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
man.
crazy.
Well, who's in the dunk contest? Who can we bet on in the dunk contest this year?
Mac McClung,
Stop.
Manas Bazelis.
Yeah, that's my guy. Yeah, go with that one. Go with that one.
Stephon Castle too. Okay. I really
Okay.
like Castle, and I like
Okay.
Cam Johnson in the 3-point shootout. I think his shot's so simple. So simple that I think he's not going to waste a lot of energy. That's the big thing in the 3-point contest. You don't want jump shooters. You want set shooters.
Mac McClung and Cam Johnson parlay, those two guys, right? Get it on Prize Picks. Win your cash. Watch your favorite players during the game. Saturday night events like the 3-point contest. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Download the app today. Use code LIGHTYEARS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly when you play your first $5. Prize Picks, run your game. I got one more. Light Years podcast, we are brought to you by Factor. Ready to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. Their dietitian approved, ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes, so you feel right and feel great no matter what life throws at you. Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared, perfect for any active, busy lifestyle. Lose up to 8 pounds in 8 weeks with Factor Keto meals based on a randomized controlled clinical trial with Factor Keto. Results will vary depending on diet and exercise. Factor will help you feel your best all day long with wholesome smoothies. I actually do love the smoothies. Smoothies are great, especially for someone like me. Yeah, those are the ones like I highly, highly, highly recommend, especially for people who don't eat breakfast like me. Clutch. Grab and go. I was waiting for you to jump into grab and go snacks, more add-ons. Reach your goals this year with ingredients you can trust and convenience that can't be beat. Genuinely, like, you know, for me, I don't got time nowadays. If like, you know, my wife's parents aren't here, they're not cooking. I'm not gonna cook. So it's
Baby
like,
life, man.
Yeah, we're going with Factor, and it's healthy. Like, I don't want to get fat. I want to get fat when I'm not exercising as much. So, eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/lightyears50 off. Use code LightYears50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code LightYears50 off at factormeals.com/LightYears50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box.
That's a crazy deal, man. 50% off. Factor killing the game.
And free
All right.
Jeez.
Yeah, and free shipping. All right. I think it's good to just do a little bit of review on the first half of the season. Obviously, things have shifted in the last week. If the Warriors had not traded for Jimmy Butler, this would be a much more depressing podcast. I think we'd be looking at the same exact thing as the last two seasons, but they did. I think there's been a lot of let's start with Steph. There's been a lot of, you know, is he washed talk over the first half of the season. And he's definitely looked older at times, and he's been less efficient. I think he's shooting a career low from 3-point land. But I also think the environment that he was playing in to the first 40 plus games of the season is something that really no superstar in the modern game deals with. You know what I mean? Like, nobody plays without a second guy who can literally like dribble the basketball. And I think he still hasn't shot it great since Jimmy's been here, but he's been way more aggressive and he's gotten way easier looks. So overall, I am encouraged. I think he's still good enough to be like the 1A on the title team. The question is the rest of the team. But overall, I think, I mean, where are you at with Steph right now? Like after the trade, what do you think about how he's looked?
Yeah, he looks way better on ball he looks way better on the dribble with the ball in his hands right now. And it's a little hilarious because it looked like he was like, it's disrespectful to say someone like Steph was giving up, but I think there was a level of, hey man, I can't. This is too much.
Right.
Like this is too much, and I just think of other players in this situation, right? Like if LeBron was playing next to the guy that's these guys that Steph was playing, LeBron would have taken two. Here, dude, get me the fuck out of here. Like I'm out,
He
dude.
did it here.
Yeah, literally. Like he does it every year, where he's just like, dude, if it's bad, like I mean, we see him if it's bad, he goes to another team, literally. So it's like, so I think Steph was like, I wouldn't say quitting, right? It's just like, man, it doesn't look good. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. Everybody goes through the same thing. Like, there's really nothing. What can I do? And so you could see it in his body language, and now you can see him juiced up, right? Because Jimmy's there, where
Literally
it's
or figuratively juiced
I
up.
hope he juiced up. I fucking hope he does, because you also got to remember, it's like it's easier for someone like LeBron, who's just like a 6'10", you know what I
Yeah.
mean, like 280 pounds of muscle. It's like Steph is still like small compared to these other guys. So I think that's the part that is kind of like that's kind of funny, is that he did look slow and tired for a second, and just immediately Jimmy's here, and yeah, the on-court stuff is easier for him, but it's like, I don't know, man. Like the way that he's moving, the way that he's dribbling, he's going through the defense in and out. You're just like, you know what it is? Like he knew that even if he did that, they would probably lose
Right.
before. And now he's like, you know what? If I do this now, like we actually have a chance of winning these games, and they're 3-1.
Yeah. And I think belief is a big thing, right? As like especially for superstars. Steph's never really been like that. He believes he can do anything, but he didn't believe in this team, and it was very clear. I called it quiet quitting early in the season. I really thought he was, and not that's not like it's not a character flaw. I think as you get older, you just have tolerance for like less bullshit. Like I'm just not going to do it. You know what I mean? Like if this is just going to be too much stress, and I think you could see that on his face. He knew he wasn't going to beat himself up for a team that was going to go 40-42. And I think he had reached that point. And like you said, he is so rejuvenated right now. Like you can see it in his movement. Like he's moving quicker. His handle looks tighter. He's more willing to like ISO guys on an island. There was a point kind of towards the trade deadline there where he wasn't even like looking to ISO. It would just like if he got doubled, he wouldn't even try to get the switch. He just give it up and get off of it.
Yep.
And that was part of that was teams would just stay with the double because there was nobody else to worry about. Now they can't just let us play 4-on-3 as much. But yeah, he looks like a totally different guy. And I think the break is going to do the most for him and Draymond, obviously. Like they are the ones that they've actually their availability has been pretty good, especially Steph. Draymond's had a couple of like minor nicks, but Steph's played a lot of games so far.
He has played a lot. I was
A
thinking about
ton.
that earlier today. Like, hey, I was just thinking about like, damn, Steph has played the whole season. Like
Mhm.
he's been hurt. He's had the finger and he's had the knee tendonitis. So I think he's missed a couple games. But man, he's old as hell, playing a lot of games
Yeah.
for a point guard.
And as far as like the typical like knock on wood, like the typical ankle sprain goes, we haven't had that yet. I think he might have turned it once, but he ended up being
Right.
fine.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think we're gonna see a renewed energy out of the break, and they're gonna need it because there's a climb at the standings. I just mentioned Draymond. I think it's been a lot more of an up and down season for Dre after the 12-3 start.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of, and I'm kind of in this camp too, more than I've ever been. A lot of like, well, maybe they should, and this is getting far ahead. Like maybe they should look at trading in the summer, or hey, maybe when Kaminga comes back, they should look at bringing him off the bench because now they do have Jimmy. And I'm more open to those ideas than ever, especially if they need to start bigger against the team and you just can't put enough shooting on the floor because of their lack of height. But I don't think I'm there yet. But just where are you at with Draymond Green right now? Because it's been a very like up and down season.
Yeah, let's take into account the whole first half. It's been an interesting season because I've been Draymond's biggest I feel like I've been Draymond's biggest supporter while also being the guy that's let's be real. This guy's he's a fuck ass half the time, more than half the time, and it's cost this team a lot, right? And I
Yeah.
think people it tends to like it's hard to be nuanced about him because it's like you can genuinely say he's cost this team championships. You can say that, but at the same time, you can make a very strong argument that dude, they're absolutely cooked without Draymond.
Mm-hmm.
And especially defensively, he's still so good for the spurts that you need him to be so good. The problem is that he's not that guy for long stretches. And I don't know if I can blame him. They need to find a way to not to get a replacement, but to get a compliment to him
Mm.
on top of just having Looney, because Looney's very good, but they need to find a way to get another guy in there where it's like, hey man, like we just because we need to win a couple games, we can't just have you start at the 5.
Right.
Right. For they're gonna have to start Draymond at the 5 essentially the rest of the season because they're at the stage where they're 500. And I feel like that just shouldn't happen. They should be able to get a big, or I think like maybe Kyle Anderson was that type of guy. Now he's gone, right? But it's like that's the part I think with Draymond this first half that's been really like it's just the age where it's like he's still really good when he's good, but how often can you say he's really good? Right? It's like the first half of this game, like he's gonna be like kind of like I don't know, and then all of a sudden when you need him to get a stop against Şengün or you need him to get a stop against someone, like hey, he's gonna get the stop.
Yep.
He is, but it's a 48-minute game. Sometimes you're up 24, and then 5 minutes later you're up 10. Like that's right because it's like this team, yeah, they can win 4-minute stretches pretty easily, but it's hard to do that when you're older.
I think there's also been a big misconception about how much Draymond played the 5, especially early on in the dynasty. Like, he didn't play the 5 that much. They went to it when they absolutely needed it, but there was always an Andrew Bogut, a Zaza Pachulia, a JaVale McGee, a Festus Ezeli. Like, those guys were always next to him, and the game has changed a lot. Like, you kind of need at least some type of stretch big, or even like a Mo Spates. You know what I mean? Like, one of those guys was typically next to him until it was winning time. But just asking this of his body at this advanced age is crazy. And that's why you saw him looking at guys like Vucevic or Valanciunas during the trade deadline, because that was the thought. I think the front office at least does
Valanciunas would have been perfect.
Yeah, and it was only 10 million. There was a couple contracts I could have made that one work. It's disappointing it didn't happen. But I'll bite my tongue on that. They're going to have to scan the buyout market, and I think that would probably be my number one priority, just to save Draymond, because to me, saving Draymond, and despite Kyrie like absolutely cooking us last night, I think saving Draymond's body for the playoffs is more important than getting a guy who's like a POA pest. And I think you probably have a better chance of finding a stretch big in the buyout market. I really do. They already have Post, but at the end of the day, he's 24 years old, first year in the NBA. You're just not going to rely on that. Like, it's too much to ask Quentin Post. Like it's just too much. So yeah, I think
I don't even know if there are buyout bigs. I feel like
Olynyk's not getting bought out. Apparently, I don't think Nance is not getting bought out. So
he got hurt too. He just got hurt.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the options are going to be, but I would really look at if the guy can shoot a little bit. I look
Tice
at him
is probably the only guy if he gets bought out, but he's not even 7 feet, not even close. I feel like.
Yeah. No, but I think Paratosh points out a good thing here in the chat. He said, I didn't realize how undersized Draymond really was until the commentators yesterday said he's actually shorter than Jimmy. Could you ever imagine Jimmy guarding 5s? And the answer is no. Draymond's an absolute anomaly in that sense. And asking him to do this for this long it's crazy to me. It really is. But hopefully they're able to preserve his body a little bit down the stretch so he doesn't just absolutely kill himself. I mean, I think we should jump off of Draymond at this point and probably talk. We talked a little bit of Pods and Moody and Kaminga, but my feelings on all of them have been mixed. I think they've all had very up and down seasons. Kaminga had a really nice stretch before he got injured, but Pods and Moody were really struggling early on in the year. Do you have any general thoughts on them? Any thoughts of kind of where their games are heading? Do you think it feels like too much luck and like for all of them to take a leap at the same time coming out of the All-Star break, but that's kind of what this team needs at the same time. So do you even think that's feasible for all three of them to be playing well at the same time?
It's like when I talk to our guy Tyler, who's in charge of the whole operation here, and we're big baseball guys. Unfortunately, big Giants fans. So and it's spring training coming up, right? And we're kind of sitting here and we're like, man, what's gonna constitute a really fun season to watch? And you go down the list and you're like, well, all right. So maybe if Jung-Hoo Lee is really good, maybe if Marco Luciano is really good, he used to be a top prospect. How about Luis Matos? Maybe he'll take a leap. He's been around. He used to be a good prospect. How about Kyle Harrison? He was a top 10 prospect too. And we'll go down the line. It's like, all right, well, we kind of need 6 guys to take a leap for the team to win 86 games. And then all of a sudden you're like, it's going to be a long fucking season. Fuck, it's going to be bad.
Yep.
And so I say that not to say that the Warriors are going through the same thing, but I will say, like, let's do pods because I don't know. I feel like we haven't done too much time on him. I think that's someone that this he looks at this team and I think he thinks like, okay, I can start at the 2 for a very long time for this team. Um, and I think he thinks and he knows that if he plays well enough, like he's not going anywhere as the
Yep.
future of this team as either a shooting guard and then, when Steph retires, the point guard. And you can kind of see it in his body language. I don't know what went on with him in the first month of the season. Um, but he was awful.
Yeah.
And then he like came back from injury, weirdly enough. Like he was out with a really odd ab injury. And then came back and he's just been money. Specifically, his defense, he's really good anticipation wise, right?
Yeah.
He's
4 steals a
really,
night.
yep, really, really good anticipation wise. On ball, like not great, just because he's not like very good of an athlete. But it's like he's so good anticipating. And then offense, like, what do you think? Right? Like on offense, it's so weird. He's got like the good feelsy stuff, but at the same time, like he can't hit it open, like he can't hit a set shot. But it's like if he
Yeah.
does a step back, it's money, it's cash. Like so, it's odd, but I like it because he's
Yeah.
aggressive.
Yeah. I mean, it's like kind of the weird thing that like, and not to compare him player wise, but like James Harden got like that after a while, right? We're like,
Yeah,
he was an incredible off the dribble shooter. But like
yeah,
after Oklahoma City, it became like a rhythm thing. He didn't like shooting off the catch.
yep,
And some guys are just like that. They're
yep,
better with some movement. Like Pods will be open sometimes and he'll
yep,
pump fake it to get the guy in the air so he can take a sidestep
yep,
dribble and shoot it. Like you can see
yep.
him thinking it out. But I do generally think you're right. I think he really feels the opportunity that's in front of him. And the ab injury was weird. But to me, I think not only like obviously he had to get healthy, but I think that was a really nice mental reset for him. I think he put a lot of
Yeah,
pressure on
yeah,
himself coming into
yeah.
the season. They expected a ton out of him. Like they were kind of saying like, "Hey, it's kind of you and
Right,
Wiggins is our second
right,
option."
right, right.
Over the summer, it's always going to shoot 8 to 10 threes a game. He's talking about how hard he's worked, and I'm not doubting that he worked hard. But sometimes you get into a season, the first couple games go bad, and all of a sudden you're like,
Right.
"Oh
That's a good
shit,
point.
oh shit, maybe I'm not that guy." So I think getting out of the spotlight, just getting out of everything for a month and just being able to relax, rehab, reset his mind, I think it's changed the entire season for him. So I really think that injury was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, yeah,
And a couple of, like one of my buddies was like, "Oh, do you think they're just holding him out to like have a mental reset and he's not even injured?" I'm not going to go full tinfoil hat on it, but I do think that break was very helpful for him.
the mental
Um,
reset. I hadn't thought about that. It's
yep,
huge.
yep,
That's
yep,
huge.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think who I've been most surprised by lately though is Moses. Like I think I don't want to say I'd given up, but I think I had given up on him with the Warriors. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I was kind of just like looking at his contract as he's 11 million tradable dollars going into the summer. You know, like and that's all I was thinking. But he's really turned a corner here in the last month. And I mean, I've been super encouraged by his play. I think he had 2 steals and 2 blocks tonight. Like the defensive activity is finally showing up in ways that matter. And he's making it so they don't have to play Buddy Hield. And I think that's judging by the chat. I think that's making everybody happy.
Yeah.
Everybody.
We're not
Um,
throwing the chat enough in there. It's been a very non-pro Buddy Hield.
yeah,
Keep going
yeah.
type of
No,
vibe.
yeah, very anti Buddy Hield. Um,
I'm the
so
leader.
yeah, I think I've been most surprised by Moses, and like obviously I'm happy for the guy. The fan base has been clamoring for him to play for years, but I understand why he didn't. But I think it's the most aggressive version of him we've seen on both sides of the ball. He's willing to just launch open threes, which he needs to do to be effective, and he's also driving the ball better than he ever has, and he's just making more
That's the one.
plays. Yeah,
That's the one. So it's the drive to the hole and finishing either in the air or through contact that's
mhm.
kind of blown my mind. Also the 3-point shooting has gotten to a point. Do you know he's shooting almost 38%?
Yeah,
I had no idea. I thought
and off
for
the
some reason,
movement,
you
yeah,
know,
like he's doing it in a variety of ways.
like he's not Clay Thompson by any means, but like if they can get him shooting 38% on like semi volume and they could get Pods back up, like Pods at almost 32, I think. If they can get Pods back up to 38, like now we're cooking. I think we need to call out Steve Kerr for this one, where Steve Kerr pushed him to the 4, and it has, well, I think one, it's allowed Steve the comfortability I don't know if that's a word, to play Moody more, which is what we all always want. Two, it might also have helped Moody a lot just being the 4, because defensively, I know everyone says he's too slow to guard guards, but he's quick enough on offense to get by a lot of guys, because he doesn't have a great handle, but he has a very functional, like, 2 steps to the hole, 2
Yep.
steps to the hole. Like, don't ask him to create, don't ask him to do anything else, but if he
Nope.
can get 2 short steps right to the hole, finishes through contact, he's figured that part of the game out. And then I do think this part, and I think same goes for Pods, and this is why we're kind of lumping those 2 guys together. Bro, they play with an energy that I think has been missing so much for this
Yes.
Warriors team. So much. How often do we see guys come in with no energy, right? And I think with Steph and Draymond, they start games with no energy almost 50 to 60% of the time. Part of that is because they're old. But then secondly, it's like, well, sometimes you'll have Wiggins come in with no energy. It's like, bro, you're 27 years old. Like, you should be the guy that's looking to play with energy. But again, like, that's just who he is, right? And so by having these 2 guys now next to the veterans, it's like, okay, these guys are bringing the energy. I felt like Booty was trying to tip slam every single rebound. I'm just like, dude, you know what I mean? Like, this is the type of energy that, look at the Rockets, look at all the athletes they have.
And I
It's
think
nice
that's a
to
perfect
see that.
comparison. I think it's a perfect comparison, that the energy the Rockets young guys play with, and the energy that like a Moody or Pods, and hopefully Kaminga when he returns, are able to bring. Well, let's hit Kaminga real quick, and then we'll talk some body spec.
Okay. Actually,
What
let's
do
do
you-
BodySpec right now. Let's do BodySpec
Okay,
right now.
perfect.
We got topics. Let Yours podcast brought to you by BodySpec. The new year is here. With it comes the perfect opportunity to build a strong foundation for your fitness journey. If you're ready to hit 2025 with a plan that's backed by real data, BodySpec is here to help. Right now, we have got the best deal you'll find online, only $45 with the code LIGHTYEARS45. That's right, just $45 to get a complete science-backed snapshot of your health and fitness, all at the touch of a button. Last year, you probably tried sticking to a workout routine or signed up for a healthy meal service, but did you ever ask what's really going on with your body? Without a DEXA scan, you didn't have the full picture. So you don't want to waste another year guessing how your efforts are paying off. Don't just make a resolution, make a plan. Start 2025 with the confidence of knowing exactly where you are and where you're headed, with locations filling up fast in the Bay Area, LA, Texas, and Seattle. Book your first DEXA scan with BodySpec today. Book your DEXA scan report at bodyspec.com. Use code LIGHTYEARS45. Take the first step towards your best year yet. Bodyspec.com.
All right, let's wrap up with let's do some Kaminga, because I think it's important. Obviously, we talked about it a little bit earlier. What do you think it's going to look like with Jimmy? Because, excuse me, what do you think it's going to look like with Jimmy? Because I'm still torn on what that looks like overall, especially on offense. I think defensively, they're going to put him in a better position to just guard the ball and not worry about anything. Offensively, I'm not sure, because they kind of need him to be that third option. They really do. He's easily the best scorer of anybody else on the team, including like the young guys, the old guys, doesn't matter who. He's easily that third best natural scorer. So what do you think that looks like when he does come back? And I'm assuming it's going to be pretty close to after All-Star break. Muted.
Dude, what is going on?
Hey, everybody needs
45.
All-Star break. Everybody needs
Four.
All-Star break, man.
I was
Everybody
launching into another ramble there for a second. What was I gonna say? I said, first off, I hope he gets healthy, because it's a little scary that he's gonna end up being out for almost 2 months with an ankle injury, which tells you it's at least a medium sprain, maybe even a high ankle sprain. I don't think we ever got the kind of like confirmation of what it is, but man, if it's a high ankle sprain, like, those are bad, right? Like, if it gets really bad, sometimes you're out for 4 months. So obviously, like, dude, hopefully he gets back safe. Because he relies so much on athleticism. Like, it's going to be tough if that's not the case. I think secondly, be interesting to see how this team, it's going to be interesting, the lineups that he plays with. Is it going to force Steve Kerr to play post more? Is it going to force them to play Buddy Hield more? Because as much as I really hate watching Buddy Hield, they do need him in those bench lineups, which is what I think Kaminga is going to be when he's back. He's going to be coming off the bench to be playing with someone like a Buddy Hield and Jimmy Butler to get him the ball, and someone like a Quentin Post, so that they can stretch the floor a little bit. Because if you're talking about putting Kaminga next to Jimmy Butler and Kevon Looney off the bench, brother, That is, I mean, you got
1995 spacing.
Hey, I mean, if you told me Kaminga and Butler are just gonna just spam mid-range pull-ups and it'll be fine, great. But your defense has to be really, really good, and that's, to your point, the other question, right? I think everybody's got this ideal. It's like he's gonna come back and he's gonna be the point of attack defender that Wiggins was. Wiggins is a really good defensive player, man. Like you don't just figure out how to play defense because you want to. Now he has all the tools to do that, but I need to see it. So I'm excited only because like we're looking at 17 Guy Santos minutes right now. And I like Guy Santos, but like tonight you kind of saw the you know what I mean? Like you kind of saw the downside of like he's a G League player. And so you kind of saw that. And so like at the very like that's a very good version of Guy is like maybe hopefully the floor of what Kaminga can bring, maybe hopefully, right? And so I think that tonight it's like we saw Pat Spencer minutes, and I love watching Guy and Pat Spencer, but it's like when the game gets weird sometimes, like you can see the kind of talent level that who we're hoping from Kaminga. I personally I'm excited. The lineups are going to be fascinating to me because they just don't have enough shooting, but at the same time it's like, bro, I watched 30 minutes of Buddy Hield against the Mavericks last night. I don't know what the fuck he provided in terms of spacing. Like I'd rather watch Kaminga. Like, I don't know, man. Like it's totally different players, totally different roles, whatever. But like, I'd rather just watch Kaminga. I can't do it. I can't.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Kaminga has restarted on-court work. I'm not sure at what level yet. I know he's at least doing one-on-one. I'm not sure if he's moved to 5-on-5 yet. Like that's when you know he's close. When he moves to 5-on-5 stuff, then he's like a week at most away from returning. So I hope he gets to 5-on-5 at some time over the break. But yeah, I mean, the lineup stuff is incredibly interesting. And he was playing his best basketball before he got injured coming off the bench. So I don't think maybe Steve just goes small and says, screw it. It's Steph and either Pods or Moses, and then Kaminga, Jimmy, and Trey. You could probably get away with that because they are so small and they can still kind of space the floor. But it's going to be interesting to see which direction they go because you can't really play Jimmy, Kaminga, Dre, and a big man, even if it's post. That would really worry me spacing wise. Like you have two shooters and then three guys who like Kaminga will shoot a three, but nobody's really guarding him. And then Draymond and Jimmy literally won't shoot threes.
Well, the way they'd have to do it is you remember those old Warriors lineups with Andre Iguodala and Sean Livingston, and then like Clay would be like the only guy, like, and then like the rim runner, like maybe throwing JaVale or like a David West, I guess is a midi shooter, and then they'd have Clay as like their one shooter, and those lineups would work because they would win the 6 minutes 10-7.
And
like
that's being generous. It was gross basketball. It was gross, but it worked.
But it was because they were so good defensively. Andre was elite. Sean Livingston was very good. Clay was very good. And they could do enough defensively. They were elite defensively and do enough offensively where they would survive. I don't think this is that, right? This is more of a, like, let's get some scoring punch in there, but then let's try to get away with it defensively because like, are you playing Draymond in that lineup next to Jimmy and Kaminga to anchor it defensively? That's tough. But then if not, are you playing Looney? Like that's a different story, right? So I don't think they have great answers to your point of like theoretically how's it going to work. I don't think there's a great answer, but I want to see it. I don't know. I'm a weird, like I want to see it. I need to see it.
I'm just excited, and I think this goes to more of an overall point. But I think the Butler trade was so important for many reasons. Number one, he's just better than Andrew Wiggins, and that's no slight to Wiggs. Like they needed a talent upgrade. But number two, it's an injection of something like genuinely new and exciting. Like DeAnthony Melton, yeah, exciting. Kyle Anderson, okay, like yeah, exciting, but only so much. Jimmy changes the calculus of how you're going to operate, and he makes everybody else better at the same time. But just kind of like reacting to what you said, the offense has been there for Kaminga, especially before he got injured. I think the bigger leap for him to take now is actually the defense. Because if he can actually figure out how to defend, and that's asking a lot, but if he can, then those bench lineups can look more like the old school bench lineups where they're just kind of like almost like the grit and grind Grizzlies, right? Like you are winning those segments 10-7, and you could envision it like it could be Pods and Jimmy and Kaminga, maybe a shooter, whoever that might be, and then a big. and they kind of just like they get stops, they get steals, they get in transition a little bit, and they get an easy bucket. But besides that, it's just kind of like a slow paced game. So my takeaway from that is that he just needs to improve defensively, and then I think I'll actually feel pretty confident in where this team is at.
Yeah, you got me pumped up.
Yeah.
I need these games. I need these games to happen right now.
Yep.
The chat brings up one. By the way, to your point about a buyout player, we need Marcus Smart in the buyout market. Dude, have you thought about that? I thought about that because I saw a picture of Marcus Smart the other day, and the guy looks fat as hell and cracks me
massive.
up. Massive. Just living the dream. He's not even playing, just getting cashed out. I would love Marcus Smart on this team.
We're just going to play Big Ten football, I guess. We're just going to run the ball.
Fuck yes.
I formation, wishbone, run the ball, punt the ball, maybe a screen pass every once in a while, win the game 7-3. Is that the ideal for the second half of the season?
Hell yeah, dude. Can you imagine a lineup with Marcus Smart, Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler? Just just goons galore, bro. That would be I need Marcus Smart on this team more than I thought I needed Marcus Smart on this team. I just thank you, Chad. Thank you. Who brought that? Thank you, JP, for bringing that up. Just, oh my God. I don't even care if he's not good anymore. I want Marcus Smart. I need Marcus Smart. Forget a big, Tommy. Just what do we need a big for? Just this team has no bigs anyway. Just get more goons out there. Put them on next to Steph and just tackle guys around Steph and let him get open looks.
Yeah, just toughness and leadership, I guess. Just pure culture. We're fusing Warriors and Heat culture into one, I guess, and Celtics culture. I think it's well, okay. What are your thoughts? Rest of the season.
You're like, we're getting to something else. What's the last topic? What do we got?
Where do you think they're going to end up?
Yeah,
because right now 28 and 27, I believe, after tonight.
Look at the
28
standings.
and 27. You know what? I'll just go ahead and pull them up. They're
Yeah,
28 and 27. Sack lost tonight, so I believe they're also 28 and 27. Dallas right now, they just moved to 30 and 26. God, that loss last night was massive. That's so disappointing. T-Wolves beat the Thunder tonight, so they might be starting to figure some stuff out. They're 31 and 25. Okay, so the Warriors in 10th at 28 and 27, tied with Sac. I believe they still have a chance at that tiebreaker, maybe not because of the division record. I haven't dove into this stuff yet. I think you can count Phoenix out. The vibes are so bad. I think the top 10 are more or less decided, but in that 10 through 6 range, where do you see them at the end of the season realistically?
So I believe I saw a stat that the Warriors have one of the easiest schedules, the rest of the NBA, and I went to
bottom
take a look.
10.
Yeah, I went to take a look. It's pretty easy. It is pretty easy. I think so. They're going to be better than the Mavs and the Kings. The Mavs, they. I know it's a big loss yesterday, but it's like, dude, I just saw the news that Gafford's out for 6 weeks. AD is like probably out for the season.
They might have to get surgery.
Like at some point they're hanging on by a thread. So it's like, great. It's like, okay, they won a couple games here and there. It's fun. Max Christie's cool. Kyrie went for 40, but at some point they're cooked. So I'm taking those out. Mike Weisberg in the chat. 22nd easiest schedule. I can't tell if that's good or not. Isn't that good?
Yeah, that's good.
That's good.
One of the easier schedules left in the league.
Yeah. So I think they're going to finish ahead of the Mavs. I think they'll finish ahead of the Kings. The Kings are a joke of a team. The question is, can they get ahead of the Timberwolves and the Clippers? And 1, 2, 3 games back. Yeah, that's tough. I think what they need to do is they need to try to get the 7th seed. I think you're asking for too much for this team to get into the 6th seed.
Yeah.
Because now you're leaping by 2 teams to get to the 6th seed. They pretty much have to win at like a 75% clip, which I know they're 3-1 with Jimmy, but like I don't know. My guess is they really should try to get that 7th seed so that they can get just 2 shots at winning the play-in. And then
you're at home both times if you do that.
And you're at home, and if they can win that, can they get a series? And if you look up at the standings against the Grizzlies, that's pretty good. Like that's pretty. I know Grizzlies and Nuggets are right next to each other, so where anything can change. But it's like playing the Grizzlies, pretty good matchup for the Warriors. Playing the Nuggets, probably not. But playing the Grizzlies, pretty sweet. So I think that's what they're looking at, Tommy. I don't think they can get into. I don't see it. It's just a lot of teams to get into that 6th seed.
Yeah, the 6 is kind of wishful thinking. I think, but 7 feels more possible, especially if Minnesota stays there, because they don't have the tiebreaker against Sac. I don't think they don't have it against the Clippers, but they do have it against Minnesota, and that is going to be important. They beat Minnesota 2 out of 3 times this year, and that will obviously be super important coming down the
Hilarious.
stretch here. I know. I think it's the only team they really have the tiebreaker against. Even if they beat Sac again, they'll be tied on the season. And look at that division record, 1-10. They're not. That's the second tiebreaker
Dude,
for.
what is that? 1-10. That is
Yeah.
nasty work.
It's the only win in the division right now is against the Kings. It's against Phoenix. So I guess they've lost to Sac twice. Either way, they're going to have a very tough time getting tiebreakers against most of these teams. So you're almost hoping the Wolves stay in the 7 seed or somehow leap to the 6, and you can be tied with them at the end of the season. But realistically, I think you're right. I think it'll be that 7-8 line. Getting to 6 is going to be very, very, very difficult. So yeah, I mean, I think I'm in agreement with you. If they somehow end up in 6, then I'll feel incredibly confident going into the playoffs that they can beat anybody. But I just don't know if they have the guys to do that. They would probably need to go. JP in the chat is saying we need to go 20-10. That gets you to what, 40, 48. And am I doing the math right?
Well, he
We need to
said
go.
since Jimmy joined, so you got to take
Okay.
four
Okay.
games
Yeah.
away.
So 7 games.
So
it'd be
45 wins. 45 wins is what we're looking at.
And I don't 45 and 37. I don't know if that's going to be enough to get to 6. It feels like it's going to be like 47, 48. So yeah, not super. I know that was the stated goal by Steve, but now that your 4 losses back in the loss column with the Clippers, and if Kawhi's healthy, I just don't see it, man. I don't see it.
I do think if you look at the state of the Western Conference, though, like it is so much of, can you get the right matchup?
Oh,
Right.
absolutely.
It is so much of that. I think it's, do you think you can beat the Clippers in a series? Absolutely. Do you think you could beat the Rockets in a series? Absolutely. Do you think you could beat the Grizzlies in a series? Absolutely. Those are the 3 right now. Do you think you can beat the Timberwolves in a series? Obviously. And then you go look at the rest, and you're like, okay, do you think you could beat the Thunder in a series? I mean, I think you got a pretty strong fighting chance there.
It feels like a good matchup, just matchup-wise purely.
Especially if it's the first series where the Warriors aren't running out of although maybe they are running on fumes because they're sprinting to the end, but that's a decent matchup. And then you go look at the Lakers. Like the reason they lost to the Lakers, and then honestly, they've kind of been owned by the Lakers the last couple of years, is because of Anthony Davis.
Yes.
Anthony Davis is gone, and I'm not saying it's a great matchup, but it is easier. You don't have Anthony Davis erased Draymond Green, and Draymond Green has been an advantage for this team a lot. So that's another one. And then I think the one that really is going to be tough is the Denver Nuggets. I think to me, they're probably still the favorite in the Western Conference, but
yeah.
Are
you saying we're going to be championship? Is that what you're saying right now?
I think if they can trade for the right pieces, and now we're gonna do it. We can do another hour on this. Wow, we're almost an hour. But it's but I do think next year, if you get the requisite leaps from Pods and Kaminga for next year, you have and you make the right free agent moves / trade, you have a pretty good shot at the playoffs. This season feels like it's kind of I hate to say it, but it feels like kind of it's just a test drive season because of the way that it's gone. Yeah.
It was not a mistake that Jimmy's contract is aligned exactly with Steph and Draymond's.
Yep.
They all expire in 2026. It's a 2.5-year sprint to the finish. And Draymond basically said as much on his last podcast. He was talking to Steph, and they said, "Hey, it's kind of the last ride. They got 2.5 years left where they think they can win a title. You're hoping the young guys improve a little bit, like you said, might make the right free agent moves." And it feels like next year is probably the year if they're going to do it. It's that next year. So yeah, that's the hope. But at the same time, you want some of these young guys to get some playoff experience, real 100%. Playoff experience, getting to the second round. And there's a debate to be had of would you rather just have Steph and Draymond have 6 months off and Jimmy, or is it okay, play until May, they get a little bit less rest, you get beat up by the playoffs, but you get the young guys some genuine playoff experience? And I think I lean towards the latter.
100% the latter. 100% the latter. 100%.
At the end of the day, it's a month, and no Olympics this summer. Obviously, Steph and Dre can take 3 months off; they don't have to do anything. And I think that's an underrated part of Steph's bad season.
Yes,
he's played for a month and a half this summer at 36 years old.
Hard.
Hard.
I mean, that's why LeBron looked terrible coming into the season.
It's because of it. Off.
Yeah. I don't. it's kind of amazing how Steph has grinded through it. Actually, now now that I think about it, and I mean, he's just a monster. But I do think like that's the goal for the rest of the season, and this is maybe how like kind of like the first half. I mean, first half they played over 50 games, but it's
We good?
sorry, some
Yeah, you're
music
good.
came into my hair. I had a show playing. But it's I think it's I think you look at the sprint into the rest of the season. To your point, I think that's the one. Are you can you find enough uh forward facing value from the younger guys, and can you get enough chemistry from Steph, Jimmy, and Dre? I think for sure. That's a for sure type of thing. So really
Yeah.
the question is, Sam and I had this coming into the season, and maybe this is the perfect like roundabout way after 60 games of this team is it feels like the championship chances for this team for the next 2 years does hinge on Kaminga. And we're talking about for the season,
Yeah.
we're like this season hinges on Kaminga. This season hinges on Kaminga. Feels like the championship ceiling of this team hinges on Kaminga. And I could be
Especially
good,
if you
could
pay
be
him this
bad.
summer. Especially
They
if you
are.
pay
They
him
will.
this summer,
They will.
right?
Joe Lacob
They
has
don't
said
really
they
have a
would.
they don't really
They
have
don't.
a choice.
They don't. It's a
By the
matter
way,
of how much they're going to pay him.
look at you.
What?
Forward facing value. You really are a Silicon like tech bro, aren't you?
That was bad. That was really bad. That was actually really bad. I actually don't know why I said that. Doesn't even
Hey,
make sense. I just made it up.
hey, we're all loopy. It's All-Star break.
But doesn't it feel like it?
Yeah,
Doesn't it feel like it?
one
It's
million percent.
crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Last thing before we get out of here. Are you excited for All-Star weekend? It's in the Bay. I feel like we have to touch on it before
You
we
go
end it for the
first.
night.
You go first. Are you?
My big thing is like none of the right guys are participating in the dunk contest. Didn't get Steph in the 3-point shooting contest. I think they were trying to do something with Ionescu, but it fell through. Couldn't come to an agreement with the WNBA. The WNBA put Adam Silver in the chair, unfortunately. So that's not going to happen either. Um, and the new format for the All-Star game is somewhat interesting, but I'm also just like, do these guys really want to play that hard? Is anything going to change it at this point? They make so much money. If I'm like the team of old guys, do you want to risk like getting injured in the All-Star game? I don't. You know what I mean? I want to take a week and a half off.
Yeah. I'm excited. Sam was. I haven't been in the city in a while. But he was telling me the city looked pretty nice. So I guess
Yeah.
they cleaned up the city, which is nice. Good for them. So that's good. As a San Francisco born person, it makes me happy. I think I would be pretty excited for the All Star festivities if I was going. Like Chase seems like they need it. The new bar looks awesome, but like I won't be there. So it's like I know Sam's gonna be there. Bunch of other like all the media stuff, like that'll be fun. But yeah, when you talk about like actually watching it, I think it's less so like this year being bad than it is like every year. And the main attraction of all this stuff has always been, it feels like in the last decade is not the game, not the dunk contest, like it's a 3-point contest, right? And I genuinely like you just told me Cam Johnson is your guy to pick to win. Like I'm not fucking watching that dude. I'm gonna like, hey, come on, man, come on. Like
Hey,
you can't
that's a
be.
future warrior right there. You better
Yeah,
take that back.
yeah. Joe Lacob would freaking he would rather die than trade JK for Cam Johnson. I'll tell you that right now.
What? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you that right now. So I don't, I like you said, I wish Steph had done something. It seemed like they wanted to get something done with
Sabrina.
Caitlin Clark and Clay Thompson,
Mhm.
which is another interesting piece. Is like, did Clay want to do something with Steph? Maybe was that part of it? I know Caitlin says she didn't want to do it, but it's like they
Yeah.
couldn't get another shooter. They couldn't get like who's another great WNBA shooter that they could have gotten. Not going to profess like I know. I was just going to name another one, but it's like it's like could they have done something there? And I guess not. So I don't know. I feel like the All Star weekend for the NBA needs a jump start somewhere, and it feels like maybe Steph was the part that does it. But I don't know. You said there's new rules for the All-Star game, so maybe that'll be cool. I
Yeah.
don't even know why there's three
It's like 3
teams.
teams, they're playing to 40, the Rising Stars somehow get involved with it. It's way different.
Yeah.
They're trying to make it essentially like pickup basketball, right? Like where you're
Yeah.
playing to a set score, and it's like, that does get the one year they did the Elam ending, it actually worked really well. At least the first year it did. So I think that's kind of the hope. But let's end on this note. Buddy's in the 3-point contest. Maybe Buddy wins the 3-point contest, and that turns the entire season around. I'm hoping for it. It turns his season around at least because they do need him to space the floor.
Yeah, they really do, and that's probably the reason why they did package his contract going out. I mean, he's also a 3-year contract, but
that's the issue.
Yeah, you know what? I will watch a 2-point contest. I will watch Buddy Hield. I will root for Buddy Hield. I mean, let's watch all of it. Fucking, let's be real.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
What else am I gonna do? You know what I mean? There's only, so I'm gonna watch all of it. It'll be fun. It'll be nice to see what Chase Edmonds looks like. Yeah, man, Buddy Hield. I guess we're rooting for Buddy Hield time this weekend. Let's go.
Let's go, buddy. Let's go, buddy.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you guys.
Much love.